What is up, fellow troubadours of truth, fellow conquistadors of crap? Welcome to another insurmountably cool guitarologist video. You should be watching this on Friday, which is my birthday. I'm now 40 years old, and let me tell you, I feel it. Also, this is Shitpost Friday as well, so those two things coincide. So that calls for a huge, celebratory, massive shitpost. I think what I'm going to do actually is repair a customer's guitar and just kind of talk bullshit with you the whole time. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, stick around. So I've been trying to get my workspace kind of all sorted out, and I've got some things put up. It's still not anywhere near what it needs to be, but it's getting there. It's getting a little closer. At least it's a little bit more presentable than it was. I did have crap strewn everywhere, and I'm started to kind of get things up on shelves and whatnot. But I still got this tape recorder out from one of my previous videos. If you haven't seen that yet, check it out. I didn't even get halfway through this tape. I don't even know what's on the rest of it. I just kind of gave up on it because I figured, that's probably all anybody's going to want to hear. So who knows? Maybe at the end it's like some leprechauns and shit pop out, and or we go somewhere over the rainbow and it gets really, really nutty toward the end. Maybe that'll be the subject for a future video. I put out feelers a couple different times asking people for questions they would like to hear answered in like a Q&A fashion. One of the most popular ones was always how did I learn electronics, or how did I come to be interested in electronics and that sort of thing. As far as electronics goes, my stepdad is an electronics engineer. He went to school for it, and now he works in coal mines. Actually, he designs all of their safety mechanisms and sensor network and the monitoring of all the underground stuff. When you go underground in coal mines, you have so many different regulations you have to abide by, MSHA regulations and whatnot for airflow, and all that stuff has to be monitored, and belts, have to keep going continuously, and those have to be monitored. So he does all of the software for that and sets up all the servos and does all that. But he went to school for all that stuff, and I learned a lot from him. My mom married him in the mid 1990s or early 90s, I guess. And I learned basics from him, stuff like how to solder, things like that, how to repair cables if you had a broken cable, how to change power switches on an amp if something went bad, and also how to set up a recording studio, how to wire everything up. And back then, it wasn't like today where you had a digital audio workstation that just had one cord that went into your laptop or some shit. You had equipment. So you had to know where everything went, how it all hooked together and everything. So he taught me a lot about that. So that kind of got me interested. Then I got into computers along about 2000-ish, somewhere in there, and kind of started repairing computers. I say repairing. I wasn't doing any soldering, like board level soldering or anything like that, but just basically diagnosing problems and swapping out components where needed, hardware-wise, or swapping out, or going in and cleaning people's junk out, and making it like new again, essentially. Because you'd be surprised at how many people they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground as far as computers go. So and especially where I grew up, there's kind of a real need for somebody who knew what they were doing. Not many people seemed to. So even though it was kind of small town, there was still a need for somebody locally to kind of fill that void. And so I sort of stepped into that for a little bit. So that kind of kept me in the electronics vein. But as far as tube amps and stuff and repairs, I've always been interested in tube amps. I always played tube amps. I always changed my own tubes and things like that. But it's not been really until the recent years, the past probably 5 or 6 years, I guess, where I started actually, got a couple of books and started learning tube amp repair. I'll show you one that I got. This one right here, and I'll put a link in the description. This is Design and Construction of Tube Guitar Amplifiers by Robert McGance. It's pretty good. It's got, you know, he goes through pretty much everything you need to know. He spends a lot of time on how to calculate load lines and things in here, which may help you. It probably isn't going to help you a whole lot unless you're designing your own amplifiers. But if you're just repairing amplifiers and stuff, there's plenty in here to keep you busy too. Also, the RC8 receiving tube manual. You guys know I pimp this book every chance I get, and I keep a copy of it right here in my top drawer. This is a good little book too. I got this from Antique Electronics Supply, and it's just got a lot of basics in it. It's called Elements of Electricity and Radio. I pretty much probably know a lot that's in here, but there's a lot of math and stuff in here. You know, so if you're light on the math part, this might be a good one for you. But yeah, man, that's kind of how I got started in it about 5 or 6 years ago, and I started buying and selling my own stuff and flipping it and doing that sort of thing. I managed a music store before that, and the owner and I kind of got in a bit of a disagreement. I would buy guitars and things that came into the store and consign them in the store. I was the manager as well, and he never was hardly on site. He was the owner. He never hardly was even there. But we had this arrangement where we didn't have very much inventory, to be honest, even because he didn't want to spend a whole lot of money or invest a whole lot in the store. So stuff that would come in that people wanted to sell, I would assess it myself, and I would buy it myself with my own money and then consign it in the store, and he would get whatever 20 or 25% cut, and that was the deal that we had. And we kind of had a disagreement over that and a bit of a fallout, so so we went our separate ways after that. So that's when I started kind of doing my own thing, you know, it kind of got to the point where I was doing a few more amps, so I kind of needed to learn what I was doing. So I started dabbling in that a little bit more. Probably, I guess it was around 2010-ish, somewhere in there. So, you know, I'm not an old hat at this. This is not something I've always done. I'm more adept probably at setup work and for guitars and things than I am at, you know, anything to do with amplifiers. Really, I show more amplifiers because it's to me. I guess it's. I don't know. I guess it's still interesting to me or something. Because it's not. I don't know. I'm more interested in things I don't know how to do quite as well. You know, I tend to want to show things that that I'm not really an expert at. That I'm more of a learner. So you know, it keeps it fresh for me, and hopefully that comes through in a video too. You know, the freshness for me and my learning experience translate and perhaps into your learning experience too. So. I'm constantly learning things, and you know, I mean, I do know a lot, I guess, too, and I try to pass that stuff along in the form of little tips here and there that I've kind of figured out. But it's never too late to learn this stuff, man. Like I said, I'm 40 years old, so I didn't start really getting into amp repair until I was, you know, 34-ish or something. So it's not too late. Okay, this is what we're going to be working on today. This is probably an 80s era Thinline Tele reissue. Someone has installed a P90. Customers complaining that this thing is noisy, and we'll see about that. Okay, if anyone's interested how I do that, this is like one of those little yoga blocks. It's used in like yoga exercises or whatever. This is my wife's, and I've stolen it from her. But it seems to be about the perfect size for doing this for a neck rest. I also use one of these. This is one of those little beanie bags, you know, like a ergonomic beanie bags for using a mouse. If you use those for a long time. I bought this at one time because I actually worked in a tech support position, and was set there, you know, hours and hours and hours a day doing nothing but, you know, being on the computer, either typing or handling a mouse. I've actually gotten as good with my left hand handling a mouse as my right, because out of necessity, because my right hand got to the point where I couldn't even use the mouse anymore because I had carpal tunnel so bad. So I moved to my left hand and used that a lot. Now I've got carpal tunnel in this hand too. So I've got carpal tunnel in both hands, and honestly, that's part of the reason why I play the way that I do. Because if you'll notice, when I play, I kind of, if I'm not using picks, you know, I avoid a lot of this stuff, and I don't do that whole Eddie Van Halen blah blah blah, you know, kind of thing a lot. The whole trilly thing. So, and if you notice, my hands kind of stay still, sort of in this position, especially when doing this finger picking stuff. So I can do all those fast runs really ergonomically and without very much motion in this hand at all. And that's because I've got carpal tunnel. So there's your carpal tunnel tip of the day. If you suffer from carpal tunnel, start using your fingers, man, to pick. That helps a lot. This has actually turned into a really good advice post. Maybe this shouldn't be a shit post at all. Anyway, let's take the strings off this guitar and also get you a little bit closer. Come here. Okay, here we go. Oh, this guy, yeah, he's got a Wilkinson bridge on this thing with the compensated saddles, which are really nice. But I need to take these strings off, and I could actually, I guess I could do this without taking strings off. This would be another tip for you. You can remove most Fender style guitars pick guards without taking the strings completely off, but you do need to loosen them usually. So let's see what's going on. He said he had one of his friends work on this thing, something to that effect, and had a really bad buzz. And we'll actually, I guess we should check that, see what's going on. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's check it. Okay. I mean, obviously it's got some, let me crank the amp up. It's got some buzz, you know, because of the fluorescent lights, for sure. But then turn it a certain way. That doesn't seem any more buzzy than a normal Telecaster to me, at least not on that pickup. But he said it was this pickup, so. And that's actually kind of quiet, so. That's actually not too bad from what I can see. Okay, enough of that bullshit. Okay, so, all right. Well, he said he couldn't get it to stop buzzing. That it was just getting a really loud buzz, like it wasn't grounded right or something. Maybe it has a bad cord, because this, I don't know. Because I just plugged it in and it seems fine to me. I'll just go ahead and check the wiring. Since we're almost already half in here, let's get this off. Here's something I noticed. Oh wow, if I touch that screw, the mounting screw, look, listen. It's reduced significantly. Okay, I see what he means. That's really noisy. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. There's some kind of, definitely some kind of ground issue having to do with this pickup, but it's not present when you're on that pickup. So that's that pickup. So it's not, the buzz isn't present when you're on this pickup, but this pickup is influencing it somehow, because, you know, again, that's strange. That's a weird one on me. See all kinds of stuff, man. If you do this long enough, you'll see everything, I suppose, but I doubt I've still, I doubt I'm there yet. That screw obviously needs to be replaced. See, that's the wrong head. I'll get him a proper screw for that. No reason to send him home with the wrong screw if I can replace it. That screw's not even grabbing on anything in that spot, so we'll fix that too. Little things like this I like to try to fix while I have somebody's guitar, just because I'm a nice guy. Alright, that'll also give us a chance to show you what to do if you have a screw in a guitar body that's just not catching on anything, so it's a real easy fix. Okay, so obviously that's not the original pick guard either, because they needed to accommodate for this, and you can see where they routed out also, oops, you can see where they also routed out for that pickup. Okay, so we've definitely got some kind of ground issue. There's going to be a ground cable. I think the first thing I might do is just clean up all this. Look at this. Okay, we've got, and this is usually the case whenever I get stuff that's already been worked on by someone's friend. You can see the solder blob right here, and the solder all up here, and see just how blobby this solder is. It's just not very consistent, and really it's not even holding this down very well. Alright, so theory number one here is that this might not be getting a good ground connection with the hardware, strings and whatnot, because when I touch the strings it actually gets worse. So what we're going to do is check that. Let's see, we'll just clip it on wherever. And there it is, now it's grounded. So clearly, the ground wire, wherever it's going, is not effective. Yeah, sometimes you get hardware that's painted and you get problems because of that. That doesn't seem to be the case here. So I would say that there's definitely something wrong with the ground wire. Well, there isn't a damn ground wire. Where is the ground wire? Really, where is the ground wire? Okay, here's the game plan. I'm going to remove the electronics. For one thing, there's only a minimal amount of shielding here, so I'm going to remove the electronics, and I'm going to shield this whole area a little bit better with some additional shielding tape. Then we'll come in here and fix some of these little problems with the holes. We'll fix the problem with the ground wire being non-existent. Which is just odd. There should be another wire coming through here that goes to the hardware, and I can feel I don't know, I really don't feel any additional. So there's supposed to be, like this black wire right here, that one should go to the hardware, I guess, but it actually, that might go to the pickup. At any rate, something's not right, and this is not grounded properly. So there's no shielding on that pickup at all. Alright, so let's go ahead and remove these strings. We'll just remove them from the posts enough to get this hardware off. I've gotten jumped on in the past. I made a video about Elixir strings. It's been a little while ago. It's one of my most popular videos, and frankly it's one of the shittiest videos I ever made. I don't know why it is that YouTube seems to think that the worst videos I've ever made are the ones that should be most popular. So they run those up in their algorithm, and they're the only ones that tend to show up are some of my worst ones. But anyway, that Elixir video I made kind of off the cuff because a friend of mine wanted me to work on his acoustic So I take these Elixir strings off, and he says, you know, those things are pretty new. If you can, put them back on when you're done, because I really can't afford a new set of Elixirs. So I was like, all right, you know, I can do that. So I put them back on, and I'm getting all kinds of buzzing and stuff, and so I track it down, and I thought, in my mind, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, I'm providing a public service here for all of YouTube. I'm demonstrating what can happen with Elixir strings. So I filmed this problem with these Elixirs, you know, where they're fraying above the frets and all, after I put them back on, and I get inundated with just comments about, you know, oh, you dumbass, you never put strings back on. And I'm trying to explain to everybody, it's like, okay, well, I was asked to do that, and the reason I was asked to do that is because that my customer can't really afford to buy a new set of Elixirs every 3 or 4 days. You know, not many people can, and that's one of the reasons I made the video, because the strings weren't even all that old, and obviously if they were old, that makes a little more sense, but they weren't. I guess maybe I failed to explicitly say that they weren't that old. So anyway, I got jumped on big time. But this customer has asked me also. These are brand new strings. These are just Ernie balls, and he literally just put them on. He said, because he had this work done, and asked if I could just leave these on. So I told him I'd do my best. But here's what I usually do if if I'm asked to do that, or if I'm working on one of my guitars and I've just put strings on and I have to take them off for whatever reason to do some work. What I usually do is just take them like this, and then just kind of wrap them around themselves. Just kind of tie like a sort of a knot in them, and you know, that way they don't flop everywhere, and they kind of tend to go one direction. But let's get these screws out. Let me find my screwdriver. One of the greatest movies of all time, The Wizard of Oz. It has to be. Does anyone remember, like, when it used to come on every year? I guess it was in the springtime, around Easter, maybe. Best I can remember. It used to come on every single year, and it would be a family event. It wasn't like now, where you can go download it, or you can watch it on, you know, Netflix or Hulu or whatever. You know, you had to. If you wanted to watch The Wizard of Oz, by God, you had to wait until it came on the TV one time a year. Because the few people who had, you know, video cassette recorders, like I'm talking when I was real little, you know, late 70s, early 80s, very early 80s, were just rich people, basically, back then. Because you were talking thousands of dollars for a VCR. They got cheaper toward the end of the 80s, but yeah, if you wanted to watch something like The Wizard of Oz, you know, it would come on once a year at a certain time, and it was a big TV event. And, you know, everybody would gather around the TVs, and it wasn't just your family, it was everybody everywhere was watching this, you know? And so you would talk about, oh, did you see The Wizard of Oz? Yeah. Look at that. It's got tape over it. It's got tape over it. Well, hell, you couldn't even see anything I was doing, could you? Look at that. You see that little bit of Scotch tape right there? Okay. This lead, okay, the lead that's taped, that little Scotch taped lead, that's the ground lead that's supposed to ground the, you know, the hardware. The problem is, clearly it's not doing its job. Now it is attached to the, ultimately, to the shield, to the case of the pickup here. And you would assume that these screws are attached to both places, so it should get connection. But okay, so here's what I'm going to do. This is already this is already attached to the shield. Now this, that's taped on here, that's there to basically attach, that's there as a ground wire, which normally might make some sense, but in this case it's not making any sense because it's already attached to the shield. It's just not attached to this. So we're going to take this gray wire that was under there out. See, it was run through that little hole, so we're taking that out. We're going to run it through this hole over to the controls, and that'll be our ground wire. There should be a piece of foam or something under this to kind of expand and adjust this thing up and down. It doesn't feel like there's anything under there. I'm gonna leave that as is, though. I was given no mandate to mess with that. I was just given a mandate to mess with the wiring. But what we're gonna do here, we'll take these off, take this off, and add some shielding while we're at it. We'll get some shielding tape. But yeah, back on the subject of how I got interested in electronics. I had kind of always been sort of interested in it. I've always taken things apart, even as a little kid. You know, I was the kid who would open up the CNC, you know, to see what was inside of it. Not that I knew how to put the son of a bitch back together or anything. I just would take things apart. In more recent times, I've kind of been inspired a lot by other YouTubers, really, to learn more and get better at electronics and go further. There is a forum on Facebook that's pretty good. There's a couple of them actually, where I've learned a lot watching other people build things. It's a Tube Guitar Amp Builders forum. A lot of times, if you if you contact me about a problem you're having with your amp, and if it's not something that I've seen before, or if I just don't have time to to follow you on it through to its conclusion, because I am kind of busy a lot, so I apologize if I don't get to all messages and emails and stuff. I do try, but sometimes life kind of gets in the way and I can't get to everybody, so don't take it personally if I don't respond to you. I do intend to. It's just not something I can really realistically do for everybody, so I've learned a lot on that forum on Facebook, and also other YouTubers like Uncle Doug, particularly. Uncle Doug is a great channel. If you're not subscribed to Uncle Doug's excellent channel, you should be. His approach is very hands-on learning. It's very visual learning. He draws things out for you. He shows you schematics very slowly and explains what the electrons are doing, at every kind of stage and every level. That's why I haven't really gotten so much into that side of videos, because it's already kind of been done better than I could do it, by Uncle Doug. I'm sure there's probably others as well, but Uncle Doug was about the best I've seen, and I learned quite a few things from his channel, and just by doing stuff, not being afraid to crack an amp open and start poking around inside of it, and obviously with a little bit enough knowledge not to stick my face in the thing, and electrocute myself, but you start out not knowing everything, and if you don't have that bit of curiosity to kind of propel you forward, or if you have the curiosity but you just you have too much fear to kind of propel yourself forward, that can be a very stifling thing. A lot of people are very obsessed, especially now, because of all the lawsuits and things that can happen when people don't observe just basic safety procedures for themselves. A lot of people don't understand, hey man, that's kind of at your own risk here. You've got to look out for yourself and seek out some information. There's plenty, in today's day and age, there's no excuse for just diving into something cold and not knowing at least something about it, basic. because there's so much information online anymore. There's just no reason. There's just no reason for you to be ignorant. There's really no excuse for ignorance now. Okay, this is going to take 2 pieces of this stuff. But what I was getting at is, you know, it's okay to be safety obsessed, because that's going to keep you alive to a degree. But also, you can't let safety concerns completely stifle you from trying new things. If I was that safety obsessed, I would have never learned anything. As if I was as safety obsessed as some people, you know, want to see me be. I've done some things that's, you know, I don't know, grabbed onto power resistors to feel how hot they were, or just things like that in my videos every now and then, you know, or touch them with the back of my hand or something, or just, I don't know, little things that isn't what you would advise everyone to do. You know, like if you're a beginner electronics aspiring technician, you wouldn't say, oh, okay, now feel of this with the back of your hand. You know, you wouldn't. Or you know, grab that live wire right there, and you know, anything like that, you just really wouldn't advise it. But at the same time, if you've done enough of this and you've kind of lost the fear, it's if you've been bitten a few times and you're like, okay, yeah, it hurt, but I'm still alive and I'm not grounded right now, so you know, whatever it hits me with is going to go, you know, in my finger and out of it, or something. You know what I mean? It's like you understand kind of how the risks. You understand the risks. You're willing to take certain risks, but you're not putting your life on the line or anything like that. So it's, or at least you know that. But an onlooker might be like, "What the hell is he doing?" You know, he is being completely unsafe. He's opening up himself to lawsuits, or he's endangering the public. You know, I mean, I'm not advising everybody to follow me here. I'm just saying, oh, okay. Here's my video of what I did. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do it the way I did this. But this is what I'm doing, you know. I'm not, that's why I don't really label my videos like how to, you know, do this or how to do that, or, you know, because it's really not a how-to instructional videos that I'm doing. I'm doing more like, oh, look what I've done, and, you know, proceed at your own risk. Kind of. So what we're going to do here, let's see if I can get a decent enough shot at it. Okay, we're going to flip this over now. I've got it shielded. We'll get some, let's see if I can find my X-Acto knife or something. All right. But anyway, yeah, what I was saying about Uncle Doug's channel, lots of good information on there. You know, he's helped me to kind of understand a lot of things that I didn't know before. So, definitely a good channel. He's not doing videos anymore, really. He hasn't in a long time. It's kind of too bad as well, because he's fantastic. But that's the way of Renaissance men, you know. That's the way of people with an artistic nature. You can't just keep churning out the hits, you know. Sometimes you got to go off in a different direction. I think he's started doing stuff with hot rods, building hot rods or something like that. And more power to him. I just wish he would make videos of that. Even I would watch those. I watch videos, all kinds of videos on YouTube, dude. There's people who do all kinds of amazing stuff. Another good tech channel you should subscribe to is Fran Lab. Fran, she worked at Electro Harmonics at one time. Also worked, I think, at the Smithsonian on some cool projects, like stuff having to do with the Apollo 11 program, even. So she's kind of got some really cool stuff on her channel about some stuff you don't see every day. Fran Lab is the name of that channel. It's a really good one, and you can kind of get lost in those videos too. There are lots of good stuff there. Everybody knows also Mr. Carlson's lab, of course. He is very good at explaining, you know, very basic stuff. He also does good repair videos and things too, but I think he's probably best known for, you know, doing stuff about the basics, which he's very good at. D-Lab is another good YouTube channel, good YouTuber. I watch a lot of videos by a guy named Shango 066, and I see a lot of you guys on my channel also follow Shango. Shango is a real character, to say the least. That dude, he just doesn't give a shit half the time, and it's pretty good viewing. Makes for some real interesting stuff. I mean, you want to talk about how bad I am as far as safety and stuff. You know, you wouldn't be able to bear to watch Shango, because he'll stick his hands right on top of almost bare wires. You know, just, I mean, it's crazy. But yeah, Shango, cool dude. He does a lot of TV repairs and things like that. Radios, TVs, old school TVs, like stuff, you know, old tube sets, and diagnoses them. Not just goes in and recaps them. He'll like diagnose whatever the problem is and talk, you know, in very long form videos. He probably influenced my videos a lot, actually, now that I think about it, because, you know, I don't edit my videos a whole lot. I've edited them a lot more recently, but especially I didn't used to edit them at all, hardly. And that was, you know, one part of that was just not really having the know-how to edit videos, but also, you know, I'm thinking, all right, well, I mean, if this Shango dude kind of gets away with it, I'm sure, you know, I don't have to edit. He'll just put up videos, though, that are really long, just with him sitting there talking about stuff, and they're interesting because you're always picking up something kind of by osmosis, you know. Even if you're not actively watching it, just having it on in the room, a lot of times he'll say something, you'll be like, oh, okay, I think I know what he's talking about right there, or, you know, whatever. But okay, well, there's that. A lot more shielding there now, and I think that will help with some of the noise. So let's get this back in the guitar. Let's get the controls back on. Let's see, let's put you guys back up here. And let me think, who else? Who else have I kind of gotten? Oh yeah, a couple other radio kind of guys. Radio TV Phono Nut. He's like this dude. I mean, you want to think I'm Southern, you know, being from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm not Southern. Radio TV Phono Nut is Southern. You know, I think he's from like Louisiana, I think, or Alabama, somewhere down there, deep South. And man, he's got the accent. He's got a real thick one. He's got the Southern drawl for sure. And you know, it's one of those accents that's just really pleasant to listen to. He's very sardonic in his humor. You know, he's got a very dry wit about him, but his videos are really fun to watch. He like Shango, gets into a lot of old TVs, old hi-fis, old radios, and, you know, he'll track down the specific problems with them. And even though it's completely irrelevant to any technology you're probably going to use personally in your day-to-day life, you know, just watching somebody work on a 1950s or 60s or 40s or whatever console TV or radio or something, there's just it's interesting. Very interesting stuff. So he's another good one. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, give him a look. Who else? I just recently subscribed to Reissue. That's another channel, and he could probably use the support. He's only got a couple of thousand subscribers, I think, right now. So, but I was turned on to his channel by Shango. He recommended him in one of his videos, so I checked him out, and sure enough, yeah, he's pretty consistently good. He's got, you know, he shows a lot of different old radios. You know, all the old really cool looking ones too, like old Bakelite ones, and a lot of different style cabinets. You'll find out really quickly working on radios that a lot of them are very, very much the same, that almost exactly the same. So working on radios is something that you could get into, just like tube amplifiers, like guitar stuff, vintage guitar stuff. Maybe not so much modern stuff, because a lot of the modern stuff has channel switching, so you get more into like relays and complex circuitry, whereas the older stuff tends to be a lot more reliable, a lot more dumbed down, you know, for guys like you and me. Yeah, man, his channel's Reissue. His channel's really consistently good, because he does stuff that is just interesting to look at, and very similar from repair to repair. It's like, okay, I feel like I've seen this before. So if you didn't pick up something on the previous one and you're new to all this, you know, you'll probably pick it up on the next one, or or the one you're watching now, or whatever. I'm rambling, but it's Shitpost Friday. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It could be 2 hours. Alright, we're going to do something about these blobs. The danger with holding too much heat on solder blobs like this on the back of pots is you risk damage to the pots. I've actually had cases where I've melted the internal plastic shaft of pots by holding it too long, the heat on there too long. Okay, all I really want to do here is just kind of clean up this blob. It looks like basically one blob on top of another blob, like they're two separate blobs even. So I just want to kind of melt them into one blob. Otherwise, what can happen is if you have two separate blobs and they're not very well melted together, sometimes this can disconnect and hang loose in there if there's a bang to it. Okay, I'm gonna need some pliers. Alright, that's pretty well on there. Okay, so we've got this shielded better. We have our shielding wire that's running from here, that gray one, so it's on there now. Let's see if our problem is gone. I would say so. Now obviously we're going to have... Yeah, that's taking care of that problem. Okay. We're going to have obviously some bits of hum because I've got two fluorescent lights right over the top of this completely open single coil guitar. So we're going to have some hum regardless in this condition. But this is the best it's going to get. So we're pretty much repaired. All we need to do now is put this back on, put the strings back on. I don't think I moved the setup at all, but yeah. Oh, also we need to do these holes. Alright, let me show you the trick of what to do if you have a screw hole that's been wallowed out and will no longer hold a screw really. What you want to do is just get some just regular super glue is what I have here. Get you a toothpick, get some super glue on the toothpick. You can do this actually with or without the super glue part, but the super glue just kind of helps the toothpick wood stay in the hole. But just put it down in there like that and break it off. And now your screw, when you screw it in, it will actually stay. Here's another one that's wallowed out. So we'll do the same thing right there. And here's yet another one. You see, put the screw in this one, and it just basically goes straight down in there. Alright, so there we are, pretty much all back together. I've got one screw to find here. That's the beauty of being a screw hound. And no YouTube bot, don't take that the wrong way. Oh, you're gonna knock me down with your algorithm. But let's see, that one will be fine, surely. Yes, I am fine, and don't call me Shirley. So yeah, if you're getting some weird noises, always check and see if your shielding is properly grounded. So in other words, especially on a Telecaster, because this big metal plate right here is partly responsible for shielding this pickup. Okay, so speaking of FAQs or Q&A, somebody did once ask me, and I don't think I answered them because I said I'll save that for a Q&A or something. But they asked me if I had perfect pitch because they noticed a couple of my videos. I kind of just, I said, and tuned my E up by the note in my head. Well, here's the secret to that. The note in my head is actually generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Okay, so that's your E. Generals gathered in their masses. There's your high E. No, no. And that's going to get you real close. That's been my experience. So there's another little trick of the trade. You can kind of fool people into thinking that you have perfect pitch when really you don't. Yeah. So that's Shitpost Friday. Hope you guys had a happy Thanksgiving and happy birthday to me. I'm 40 years old. And like I said, I feel every inch of it. Things hurt in my body I didn't even know I had when I was 20 years old. But here's to another 40 years, hopefully. Hopefully I'm not yet halfway through my life and got many more years to go. But I'm very blessed, very thankful. I love my family. And I love all you guys who comment, who share your wisdom, ask your questions, and who banter back and forth with me in humorous ways. I appreciate everybody. So that's me, done for the day. You guys take care. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.